Hello beautiful souls, Avalon here, and I wanted to talk to you today about cleansing, or my newest cleansing obsessions. Now very recently, if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen that I posted something like Palo Santo is my crack, and I wholly and solely mean that, because I have been going cray-cray on Palo Santo of late, and I love this stuff. I could just sit there and smell it, inhale it all day long, and I find that its effects on my environment are ridiculously positive. I find that it's really like elevating. It really changes the vibe in the room, and I use it on my reading table, in my reading space, all of the time. And I wrap Palo Santo smoke around all of my cards when I'm using them, you know, especially when I'm reading for another person, if I'm reading for myself. Who am I kidding? I just use it a lot. Like, it is really like my witchy crack at the moment, and it has been for a couple of years now. Quite a large amount of time. I used to use it growing up in Brazil. It was readily available to me there. Came to Australia, it wasn't available to me. Heartbroken, like couldn't get a hold of it when I lived here. Then on comes the modern age, internet-based businesses, etc., and now I can get my shit from overseas, and ipso facto, I have a constant, steady flow of Palo Santo, and I love it. I love it. For those of you who don't know what Palo Santo looks like, this is what it looks like. It is wood, highly fragrant, beautiful, holy wood, and you just keep lighting it, and it just keeps burning, and you keep lighting it. Here, I'll show you. And I love it, and the smell is absolutely amazing. I prefer it to sage, even though sage does have its benefits, and it was revered for a long time. In fact, that lull that I experienced from moving to Brazil to coming to Australia, sage was my saving grace. And it was a familiar herb because I did use it in Brazil as well. Ah, my goodness. It doesn't smoke as much as sage does, but it smokes enough, just enough. And it's not an ashy kind of smoke. There you go. Oh, it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. And I will grab, hang on, I've got the Gypsy Palace Tarot here. And I will grab my tarot cards and do these ones. And I'll break them apart, and I'll do these ones, and I'll just sit here for ages. It's kind of like an active meditation for me. I just love it. Oh, God, I love it. I love it so much. So Palo Santo is my crack at the moment. It's one of my cleansing and clearing cracks. It's really activating, and I find it that using it with, you know, with my tarot decks has been, and my oracle decks as well, has been amazing. But even like as far as candle magic goes, I make my own spirit candles, my own blood candles, my own divination candles, and anyway, I dropped a whole bunch of cards on the ground. Not tarot cards, actual business cards from some of the clients that I get in. So I make my own candles, right, and I like to smudge my candles prior to using them. I know it's a weird thing to do, but I always do that, and I'm pretty heavy on smudging a lot of things and smoking a lot of things. It makes up a huge part of my practice and my path, so I just do it, and I have done it all of my life, so I don't think I'm about to change that. Now, very recently, huzzah, very recently, I have discovered the benefits and the beautiful vibrations of Juniper Wood. Now, juniper berries are quite commonly used in witchcraft. They've made up a part of my witch's practice for a really long time, but Juniper Wood has never done so. And so I've been using Juniper Wood, and I find that it has such an earthy Gaia aroma. So I utilize this particular deck when I want to bring in Gaia energy into the space. And I find that it works beautifully with my Gaia oracle. And which, if you guys have never seen, this is a Blue Angel deck, Gaia oracle, just amazing. They love each other. They love each other. These two are marionette made. But I find that when I'm burning this in my space, I bring in that that nurturing, plentiful Gaia energy, and it's really beautiful, and it's grounding, and it anchors me into the moment while still lifting my vibration in a really positive and constructive way. So I find that integrating juniper wood smudgings from time to time into my day, especially if I feel a little bit scattered in the brain, a little bit foggy, you know, and if I'm having one of those days where I've had a lack of sleep, I burn a little bit of juniper wood, and I just feel okay. I feel a bit of Gaia. I feel the pressure off, if that makes sense. We can't all run at 100% all of the time. So it's like a forgiving aroma to me. It's like, okay, we're having a human day today. We're allowed to have these moments. We're allowed to have these human experiences. After all, we are having a grand human experience. So, yeah, very, very beneficial. It smells incredible. Oh, it smells incredible. It smells incredible. Now, I have become in love with another item, but I cannot find it at the moment because my daughter is mischievous, right? But I will explain it to you. And it is a type of smudge stick, and it's called a crystal smudge stick. Now, it's made by a lady here in Australia. Oh, I wish I could find it. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. It actually deserves to be videoed, but unfortunately, daughter ran off with it, and she probably needed it, so I'm not going to get too cranky with her. But it is a really beautiful long smudge stick, and it's made with a sort of a bundle of native herbs and with sage, white sage and dark sage, just twists of lavender, cedarwood, and things like that. So there's different varieties of them. They're all under that guise of crystal smudge sticks. But the beautiful thing about these are they're all natural, they're all handmade, and inside of each of the smudge sticks is actually a crystal, and the purpose of this crystal is placed there by the shaman that actually created the stick to begin with, and that is that once you have finished burning the smudge stick all the way down to the hilt, you know how it gets that little stubby bit at the bottom, then you are to bury it with the crystal and return it to the earth and bring healing to the earth as a result of it. And I just thought, as soon as I heard that and I understood that, and that came into my sphere of consciousness, I was like, this is what I need. I need this in my life. So I started buying them, and I find that one lasts me a really long time because, of course, I'm quite dedicated to my Palo Santo, but occasionally I'll bring in that that sage energy, that lavender energy, and I find that to be really really cleansing in a different way, in an almost antiseptic way. So recently the family and I were sick. We had a little flu, well, not a little flu, flu's a strong word. We had a cold go through us, you know, sniffly nose, that kind of thing. And whenever that kind of thing happens, I find that the vibration of the house is a little bit lower than usual because we're all a little bit more lethargic in that. And lavender and sage together have such a healing vibration to me, so I like to go through the house and actually smudge the house with lavender and sage and really lift me out of that funk, that horrible yucky funk, you know, where you're surrounded by a sea of tissues and you're just like, you know, your brain is melting and coming out of your nose kind of thing. Sorry to make it as graphic as possible, but you know what I mean, when you're kind of a bit miserable when you're a bit sick, and so it's really nice to get to sort of spring clean the energy in the house, you know. And that, of course, I have to physically clean my house before I do that, because I feel like you can't get rid of negative vibrations and of lower vibrations and of sickly vibrations if you don't actually sweep them out at the same time, if that makes sense to you. So I find that physical cleaning goes hand in hand with spiritual cleansing, and the two are as necessary as the other. So the next thing that I'm really into is, to pat myself on the back for this one, is my own personal creation. It's my own personal creation. Now, I burn this on charcoal disc. So this is what a charcoal disc looks like after it's been burnt out. So it turns to ash. So that's not obviously in use. You can use that ash too for manifestation, spellcraft, releasing, that kind of stuff. I'll talk about that another time. But a nice little charcoal disc lit with your little charcoal disc tongs, because I've been hearing of a lot of people burning themselves on charcoal discs, and I'm like, how? How does that happen? How does that happen if you're using tongs? Now, these are specifically made for charcoal discs, but you can use a normal set of kitchen tongs or even chopsticks, you know. Like, there is no reason why you should have to touch them while you're lighting them and have that saltpeter go sparkity spark all over you and all over your beautiful stuff as well. So I've seen many little burns on people's lovely altar cloths as a result of, like, just, you know, shonky lighting of a charcoal disc. Not necessary. Come on, use your head, people. So this is my universal grade all-rounder, and this is a mix that I have been using for the longest time. Now, it's harshly resin based, not harshly, wholly resin based. It does not have a harsh smell to it at all. It has one of those, oh, you know, the smell of temples, frankincense, copper, myrrh, dragon's blood. And there's a few other little bits and bobs in here, like blue cornflower and rose, and just, I'm not going to give away too many of my secrets, but that on charcoal, holy doolies, that just makes my day better. Like, it makes my day so much better. Now, other than that, I like to use loose white sage. Now, I have loose white sage. This is my American white sage. I have Australian white sage as well, but I like this American white sage, and I find it to be very beautiful. And this is just pure sage. Has one hell of a scent to it. Oh, throwing it everywhere. And that's kind of what it looks like. Beautiful dried white sage. And this is what most of your smudge sticks will be made of. However, they'll be laced with something else. And I mean laced in a nice way, not in a drug-addled way. But I find that it's really lovely to sort of use loose white sage, and sometimes all I want is the smell of sage. I don't want it mixed in with anything else. And so I'll just burn a leaf of it, like, I find that the smell of charcoal burning, the charcoal discs burning, can be really, I don't know, sometimes it can be yucky. And so taking a little leaf, setting that on fire, and it burns just beautifully. Lets off just that little bit of smoke. Oh, there's that smell. And you cannot mistake the smell of sage, white sage at least. Run it along my chakra points. Feeling very blissful in this video. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so they are probably my all-time favorite things that I like to use. Herb-wise, I love copple. This is a piece of copple. Hang on. That is a piece of copple. It's a type of resin. Reminds me of Egyptian temple. Whenever I go path working with my Isis oracle, I like to incorporate a little bit of copple into the activity, into the journey. Another thing that I really, really like is benzoin, actually. It's in rock form as well. Another sort of resin. Just smell it. Just smell it. One day they're going to invent a way to send scents over the internet. Oh, frankincense. I just love frankincense. How good is it to add to a mix? Dragon's blood, so elevating. Hang on, I'm gonna get, oh, here we go. Alright, so frankincense. I have it in raw form, so you can see it there. It's beautiful stuff. And it too is a resin. I'm very attracted to resin. Dragon's blood in rock form as well. Beautiful, beautiful. It has such a red tinge and adds just this element of wish and possibility to mixes. Hyjon the Conqueror, also known as jalap. I'll show you a piece. The stuff is freaking expensive, but it's amazeballs. I like to make tinctures and oils with that. I find them to be really great for candle magic. And Job's Tears. That's Job's Tears. Great for adding elements of wish and the planting of seeds to to mixes where I'm trying to, I don't know, change the vibration of the room or even change the vibration of the spell. So I use all of these in incenses, and I like to ground them up. And grinding up incense for me is just part of the freaking charm. I literally cringe on the inside, like I feel it is some form of sacrilege when I hear that people put their herbs in coffee grinders, and to just take that ease out of it. And I'm like, my head just can't comprehend that, because part of the charm, part of the love, part of the power, part of the transference of energy happens when I am grinding shit in my mortar and pestle. I have so many mortar and pestles, all different sizes, some wood, some ceramic, some most marble actually, because I like them to be very heavy duty, some small, some large, and I will sit there until my arms are aching, and I chant and I grind every bit of herb down to a fine powder. And there is such a sense of accomplishment once I've achieved that, such a sense of, wow, look at how beautiful that looks, and look at how beautifully that burns, and look at how much energy and how much willpower and how much intent I poured into it. And that's the reason why all of my incenses that I make for myself and sell have such a wonderful feeling to them, because I do put elbow grease. Like, that is hard work, like making incense from scratch, handmade incenses, grinding it up, small, fine powders. Oh man, that's a lot of hard work. It takes me all day to do some when I'm doing incense day. It takes me all day, but it's worth it because I like the results, and I can feel the results, the difference in the results. And of course, there's nothing stopping me from lighting up a charcoal disc and putting, a rock of dragon's blood on it. And, sometimes that's what I feel like doing. I just feel like one hit of dragon's blood, for whatever reason, I feel like that's what I need to use on the day, and I'll do that. But if I'm due for mixing, and I find the benefits of mixing up your own incenses are just endless, because you can tailor make an incense to your particular need or your particular intent, and then you can pour your willpower into it while you're crafting it, in the process of crafting it. So it makes it such a rewarding task. And if you don't have one, grab a mortar and pestle. Like, this is one of my little ones. This is one of the incenses that I've ground, and you'll see what I mean when I say I grind it into a fine powder. These were all like chunky rock things, and I'm sitting there going bang, 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 trying to hammer the shit out of it, to try and get it as small and as smooth and as powdery as possible. And just, it's worth every second of it. It's time well spent, kids. It's time well spent. When you think, if I'm not doing that, what would I be doing? Watching TV maybe? That is time well spent. So yeah, that's what I like to do. That's what I've been using lately. They're kind of incense addictions that I've got at the moment and that I've had for the longest time. I'm very scent driven. I find that smell, scent, it's such a powerful thing. It's such a powerful memory trigger. And sometimes I will light something because it reminds me of home, and I get very homesick from time to time. And so I will light something up and just be transported to a time and a place where I feel comfortable or happy or at peace, or together with my family, or together in a ritual, and it takes me back to a really delicious moment. And I love the way that scent can do that for you, and I love the way that most of my scent triggers happen to be pagan. I'm also very much a fan of perfume. I'm a bit of a perfume addict, but I rely a lot on my sense of smell, and I utilize it as best as I can, and they are huge scent triggers for me, and I know that works the same for other people. So yeah, and I love the fact that when I use all these herbs, they were used by my mum and they were used by my grandma, and I'm using them in the presence of my daughter, so she's going to have that same sort of scent trigger in her mind at one stage, and maybe when she's at my age, she'll be like, my mum used to burn this sort of stuff, and that makes me so happy, guys. That's like, what a nice cycle to perpetuate. So have a think about it. Have a think about what you use. I'd love to know what you use, actually. I know that I don't burn mass-produced incense. I have nag champa in the kitchen because sometimes I like to burn food. I don't do it on purpose, but it happens. I'm a terrible cook. And so I'll have nag champa in the kitchen, but I don't burn it in my sacred places. It's really just to deodorize the house, if that makes sense. And sometimes I'll make my own little sprays and spritzers and that to do the same sort of thing. But I do like nag champa, and I know that it has a really interesting vibration, and so I'm happy to use that. But you won't find cone incenses or different kind of stick incenses in my house ever. Like, not ever, unless they've been gifted to me by someone, in which case I will happily gift that on to another person. I don't waste that sort of stuff, but I also don't use it. And yeah, I just don't like it. And I would never ever use a stick incense in a ritual or a manifestation of every kind. I mean, I wouldn't say never, because they're big words. I've once said I'd never use a tea light candle in a manifestation, and I was pushed into a corner where all I had available to me at that time was a tea light candle, and I made it work. So I guess in a situation where I needed to be a little bit of a witch MacGyver kind of thing, I would probably use a stick incense. But I find the idea horrific. So that's my own personal thing. I'm a bit old school when I do stuff like that, and I like to have my raw stuff. I don't really get things in powdered form either. I like to do the work myself, so I'm not a lazy witch in that way. I like to get stuck into it. It's part of what crafting my witchcraft entails. And so yeah, I'd just be witch without the craft bit if it weren't for my incenses and my herbs and my gums and my resins and things like that, and the way that I work with them. So I don't know, it brings me a sense of peace, and it gives me the opportunity to actively meditate as well, because yeah, just takes me out of my mundane chores and puts me in a more magical mind frame, and that's, you know, that's peace for me. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you guys, and yeah, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the matter, and what you're using at the moment, and what your witchy crack is at the moment, because I'm telling you folks, Palo Santo has my heart. So good, so good. Anyways, I could go on and on, but oh, so good, like so good. All right, well, I'm gonna go now, and lovely talking to you. Much love, many blessings. Tell me what you think.